Hello everyone! So today we are going to talk about social inequalities and a situation where I wish I would have said something differently. My story for today is about an advising appointment that I had that made me kind of question a bunch of things. So I transferred to Michigan State as a sophomore, and I'm in my second semester, sophomore year. I got here first semester super overwhelmed, didn't know what I was doing, really wanted to change my major for a little bit. Right now I'm pre-med, and I remember I went into this advising appointment and I was like, okay, I just need someone to tell me what to do. The advisor was like, okay, think of where you want to be in about 10 years. Picture where you're living, who you're with. Don't picture your career, but picture what kind of life you're living. And she was like, okay, if you think you want kids, then maybe medical school's not the route for you. And in the moment, I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, wait a minute, just because if I wanted to have kids, that shouldn't affect the career I have or what I'm doing. I shouldn't have to sacrifice one or the other. I like to think I'm a pretty liberal-minded person, but even that went over my head. Right in the moment, I was like, oh yeah, okay. That has to do with the traditional gender roles that society has kind of placed for men and women. Typically, men occupy this instrumental role, and that's kind of a person of authority. They're supposed to provide for the family, and women occupy the expressive role, which is they kind of nurture to the emotions and they take care of the family and everything. So this supports the idea of the patriarchy, and that is a male-dominated society. So that kind of gets into the idea of sexism, which is the idea that usually one sex, and typically males, are superior to the other. So we're kind of over that. Sexism can come in the form of misogyny, which is ingrained prejudice against women.
And I don't think that what this woman in the advising appointment was doing was misogynistic, but I think that we have just been so accustomed to these ideals of thinking.
So most people think that high-power careers should be occupied by men and not women. So, doctors, for example, they might think, oh, women should be nurses, but, men should be the doctors. Say that you are a woman with a high-power career. You've gone through layers of the glass ceiling, you're moving up in your company, you're the head of a department in a hospital or something, and you're working harder than your male colleagues to gain respect. At the end of the day, you're expected to go home, take care of the kids, clean the house, make dinner. So that's called the second shift. And that is what is expected of women, specifically at home. Nowadays, there's definitely more of an equal division of labor, but it's still a very prominent idea that women should be the ones that are doing all of these chores and stuff, regardless of if they are working a career or not. So when my advisor said, maybe med school isn't right for you if you want kids, that wasn't her trying to perpetuate the sexist narrative. It wasn't her trying to put me down, at least I don't think, but this is what we call a microaggression. And that is a very subtle form of communication that conveys a message that is dismissive of a certain group. So in this case, it was being dismissive of women that want high-power careers. Not necessarily high power, but just careers, I suppose. I didn't say anything in this situation because I was just so used to hearing these ideas that I think I subconsciously believed them, that women weren't as good as men or they weren't as suited for these positions as men, because when you start to hear something over and over, you kind of start to think it a little bit, and it's in there. So I wish that I would have said, you know what, even if I do want kids, that shouldn't have to affect my job, or I had the agency to challenge the structure. In this case, I had the ability to challenge the social structure of how women are viewed in the workplace and just how women are viewed in comparison to men. So I think lastly, apart from what I wish I would have said in that situation, something that I wish I could just say to a bigger group of people would be, don't let what society wants you to do affect what you want to do. So go to med school, go to law school, be a nurse, be a teacher. It doesn't matter what gender you are. So, yeah, okay.